Okay, friends, we'll go ahead and begin with reciting the Namo Tassa and the three refuges. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Welcome, friends, to this Wednesday evening Dhamma discussion and meditation practice. So I hope you're all able to receive the email I sent out on Monday with the title of topic of tonight's Dhamma discussion, and were able to read the material on the five spiritual faculties. Now, the five spiritual faculties are the important mental qualities of the mind that we cultivate, in the practice of the Dhamma. And these five spiritual faculties are faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. So I want to explain how these mental factors work, and especially the ones of faith, because mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom we've already talked about in other Dhamma talks, probably in most of the Dhamma talks normally, especially mindfulness and concentration and wisdom are talked about. And also the right efforts. In fact, in the week prior, we were discussing the three pillars of the Eightfold Path: right understanding, right effort, right mindfulness, and right effort. So those are already three of the spiritual faculties, because wisdom, right understanding, and wisdom are basically synonymous. But the faith and actually the four, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom are, four steps of the Eightfold Path, but the faith is not mentioned. So faith basically gets people started, because especially with the Dhamma, and especially for those of us not born in a Buddhist country, and especially, before the the 1980s or 90s, Buddhism was not really known in this country. And it was only taught primarily in some universities as a, part of comparative religions or Buddhist studies. But, the average common person really had hardly any access to the teachings of the Buddha because there were hardly any books back in those days. In fact, when I took a class in world religions and I decided to write a paper on the Buddhist teaching, I went to the library in a big size, city in America, not a huge city, but Riverside, a public library, and there was only 4 books on Buddhism or something in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Actually, when I brought home a Buddha image from Mexico one time, I was down in Mexico and I saw this image. I didn't know what it was, but it looked interesting, and I brought it home, showed it to my mother, and she said, "Oh, that's a Buddha image." And I said, what is that? And she said, go look it up in the encyclopedia. Go look up Buddhism in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Now, my mother was a school teacher, so she probably had somehow learned something about Buddhism. I'm talking about 1971. So that was, before, it was very much known. So that, but anyway, I wrote that paper, as I've mentioned in other talks. I decided the Buddhism sounded interesting, hearing the ideas about karma and rebirth, of course, which are not talked about in normal, this Judeo-Christian background, upbringings, such as in most of the Western countries. So it was all like new, and about meditation and about, greed, hatred, and delusion, and especially the law of karma. So it sort of pricked my interest more than the other ones in this class to write the paper about. And I went and did some research in the few books that I found in the library. I was able to get a kind of a basic understanding of, the Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path. But it sparked my interest, and also the interest in meditation. So, and especially the talk about the Buddhist path to liberation from suffering and liberation from ignorance. So that was something that normally, is not talked about, in these countries. So it was, I got interested in that, but then, I wasn't able to pursue it because, again, there was no meditation centers. There was no Buddhist temples around, except for maybe in New York or Los Angeles and some Chinese or Japanese Buddhist temples, but, not not easily accessible. So, but anyway, that faith later on, when I got to India, then I finally was able to take a course in the meditation and learn more from the meditation course and the Tibetan Lamas, and got this understanding and faith that that we can actually we don't have to wait around for a savior, somebody else to sort of save us, and that we have all the power within our mind, innate power within our mind, to develop the ability to change our mind. Because most people were just going to psychiatrists and psychologists and having them tell them what's the matter with them and giving them, therapies and pills, but not telling them how they can actually, do the work themselves through meditation, because they didn't know about meditation. So that's why that faith, that for me anyway, that was because for those who read my autobiography, they know I was, caught up in a lot of unwholesome habits and things like that, and getting into a lot of mischief and trouble. So anyway, after that first meditation course, and practicing meditation, I really, I had faith that I really wanted to follow this path and really get into it. And that's what led me to Sri Lanka to become a monk, after about 1 year. So the faith, there's three levels of faith. The first one is an excited level. So that means the first time we hear something, we get excited. Oh yeah, Dhamma, okay, I want to practice meditation. I want to practice the precepts, maybe become a vegetarian, and you get this kind of, initial energy to want to practice. So that excited faith, and especially with the idea that maybe we can gain enlightenment within 6 months or a year. I mean, this is a fantasy, some of the early practitioners had, and so on. So anyway, that level of excited faith. But then as you go on practicing and you start getting deeper into observing your own mind and understanding how deeply ingrained our habits and our greed, hatred, and delusion is deeply ingrained down to the cellular or molecular or even atomic level of the nervous system, then you realize, wow, and the idea that we've been going through the rounds of rebirth for hundreds of thousands of lifetimes, accumulating greed, hatred, and delusion, and the idea that just becoming a monk or practicing meditation for even some years is going to sort of reverse all that, or to purify the mind to attain enlightenment. So anyway, then your faith becomes, you understand it may take a little bit more time. And so it's called the enduring faith, even you endure the ups and downs of practice. But anyway, that faith gives you the energy to want to do something. Like with me, it changed my whole life in that first meditation course. After that, I just was wanting to devour anything more on the Buddhist teaching. So it led me, down to Bodh Gaya in India, and where I got some books, on Buddhism, and then, heard about Sri Lanka, and, it's possible to become a monk there. And so I had to generate a lot of energy to really focus the mind on attaining that goal, because there's lots of lures and temptations that were, trying to, pull me away. So that the faith, you want to do something, then, that generates that energy. And then what is the energy to do what? So then the mindfulness, developing mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, because we understand that developing, meditation is really the way to put that, is the path to the liberation. And the intellectual understanding is one thing, but then when you practice the meditation and follow the other steps of the Eightfold Path, then observing precepts and changing the way that you react to things, and kind of simplifying your life and mind a little bit more. Then and living according to the law of karma, so your meditation improves. So the faith, basically, it's sort of like a person who is studying for a PhD. They're called the 5 faculties, okay? The 5 faculties, the way that I like to describe it is, a faculty advisor in a university helps advise you on how to pursue your study, what you want to, gain a PhD in. And so they point you to certain things and certain types of research and study to help get your mind on the track. So there's 5 faculties of faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom help to get our mind on the track of Dhamma. Because again, for most of us Westerners, it's a totally like 180-degree shift in our direction that we might have been going to, before. Especially in my case, I mean, that's the way I saw it. And so the initial faith, that initial energy, then you start practicing meditation and mindfulness, and developing concentration, and then little by little your wisdom and right understanding, grows and grows. So, but it's without the faith, the people are not really going to do anything. If you don't think like you start to do anything, if you don't have faith in, let's say, your teachers, if you don't have faith in your teachers or your coach, let's say you're learning some sport or, you have to have a certain amount of confidence. So in the faith in the Dhamma teachings is called saddha. And basically it's kind of like a confidence. It's not a blind faith, although in the beginning we have to have a kind of a blind faith because we don't know if there's rebirth or not. And, we don't know if the Buddha was enlightened and so on, but we have confidence in the teachings that there's something to this. And so that confidence gives you that energy to start practicing. And as you start gaining deeper understanding and reading sutras and seeing what a kind of a genius the Buddha was, to be able to come up with this whole practice of the Eightfold Path and the Dhamma, then, naturally we get the faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. So that faith in the Buddha is like, like a faith in a doctor. You go to the doctor, right? Maybe you got some symptoms. You go to a doctor. And you have to have faith in what the doctor is going to prescribe to you, in the medicine. And so, if you don't have faith in them, you'll go to some other doctor. But the way through the doctor, advises you and examines you and so on and talks to you honestly, you gain faith. Although people do change their doctors and so on. But so the Buddha was like a doctor. And he prescribed the medicine to overcome suffering. So he diagnosed suffering. The Buddha, he diagnosed suffering and the cause of suffering and how suffering ends and how to live and practice your life that bring a suffering to an end. And then he prescribed the Dhamma. So the Dhamma is the medicine. The Buddha is the doctor. The Dhamma is the medicine that you take. That means the Eightfold Path and all the things, connected with the Eightfold Path. But you have to practice it. A doctor can prescribe you medicine, but if you don't actually take the medicine, then, you may not get cured. So that medicine is the Eightfold Path that starts with the right understanding. And we've talked about these things before. So most of you know that. But so this the aspect of faith, and then the Sangha, because the object of faith or confidence within the Dhamma teachings is having the way the Buddha described it, having faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And then the Sangha is like the nurse practitioners. The doctor comes and gives you some initial checkups, prescribes medicine, but the nurses make sure you're taking the medicine. So that's like the Sangha, right? Your community of Sangha that you practice with, whether it's monks or nuns or lay Sangha, but people that are practicing that help to support and encourage each other in the practice. So, but especially having faith that the medicine works. Because just as you take the medicine, various medicines, some of them work, some of them may not work. But as you start getting better in taking a medicine, even for a sickness, you have faith that it works, and so you keep taking it. So anyway, the same with the Dhamma. But the thing is that it's the energy to keep practicing, because if you don't have the faith, that energy will start waning or getting weaker, and then you might. But you have to give it time. But a lot of people, especially in the West, they're kind of jumping around, and because of this push button type of mentality, especially with the computer age, people want everything, faster and faster, with the press of a button. And so they think the same should be true with changing their mind. They take steroids for their body, right? Want to build muscles really fast, but then we know the problem. Trying to, all these muscle building people, they wind up getting problems, from, kind of force feeding the growth. So anyway, in the Dhamma, that growth is normally more measured and gradual. But it's the continued, effort to practice, and again, to practice the mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. And I'll be talking more about those in the next week, but especially I wanted to this evening focus on the faith and the energy to practice, because we've already talked quite a bit, we're practicing mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. But a lot of people, if they're not making enough progress quickly in their meditation, then they might have. And the faith also doesn't apply to faith just in, in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. It's having faith in yourself, knowing that, deep down underneath all the confusion or the dark states of mind that we might have, or the, not being able to overcome our, bad habits and so on, that we think, I won't be able to do this. Or you think it's all or nothing, if I can't practice like a monk or a nun, or that, practicing, I might as well give it up or something. So, people have all kind of ideas that come into their mind, but, about, wanting to deflate their faith or to give it up. And that's why the encouragement to gain the unshakable faith. So there's that initial faith, and there's that, long enduring faith. And then there's the unshakable faith that comes with actually reaching the first stage of, liberation, or the first stage of enlightenment, which is, entering the stream. So the deeper insights you get, the more, when you actually see your mind and how you can modify your consciousness through practicing mindfulness and concentration, that gives you, again, that increases your faith that it can be done. Because a lot of people say, oh, you can't do that. And, even scientists, before 1950 or something like that, they were saying, oh, the brain is hardwired, you can't change the brain by yourself, and so on, but then gradually, the ideas of neuroplasticity, which is that you can influence and change the way that you think and act in your deep, seated habits, but you can't do it through external manipulation. You have to do it. It comes through mindfulness. Concentration is the way that you reach those subtler sort of cellular vibrations in our brain, and to make changes at the deep levels of awareness. Anyway, so I think I'm going to stop this discussion, this talk here, and see if there's any if you have any questions on any of the things that we mentioned so far, or any other general Dhamma questions. So I don't see any chats that have come up in the chat box. So if somebody wants to raise a hand. Okay, I see a golden hand there. Damon.
Okay, thank you. If can you suggest a way of coming to understand faith and energy more on an intuitive, experiential level in the course of meditation, let's say?
Well, once you start getting some deeper levels of concentration and you weaken the hindrances, and you see how you weaken the hindrances through the way that you're practicing some precepts or changing some of your negative habits and being mindful to check your negative thoughts and so on. That's the experiential level, because you'll see that if you can change it a little, then it's not a stretch to think you can change it more. And even change it more. So there's a saying, if you put a little into it, you get a little bit out of it. If you put more into it, you get more out of it. And if you put a lot into it, you get a lot out of it. But it comes through the practice of the precepts, and also, trying to overcome your grosser sensual desires and so on, because all these are what feed our hindrances. And cultivating, more friendliness and compassion and all these, states that we've been talking a lot about, the Dhamma practice. So that's experiential. That's experiential.
Right.
And when you see the benefits of it, that's what gives you the energy, because you see that it's something positive.
Thank you. So it sounds like you're saying that, like, with regard to energy or effort, the use of that term is really not that different than the colloquial use in the English language, like, hey, no pain, no gain. You got to put out energy. You got to persevere with something. You got to do it when you don't want to do it. Right? It's a kind of a...
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's saying no pain, no gain, especially in terms of sitting meditation. That's why learning how to endure pain when you're sitting, and not, kind of always wanting to get rid of every little discomfort, to take it as a challenge and to relax around it, knowing you don't have to always move at the slightest little discomfort. You can learn how to, by applying mindfulness and right understanding, you can little by little endure it. And as you endure the pain a little longer, you'll become happy about that. You say, oh, I could do that, That's why when you start meditating, you might not be able to sit for 10 minutes without moving. But, if you keep on practicing little by little, after some time, you'll be able to sit for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and eventually even an hour or maybe even longer. Because it takes time for the muscles, the cells, the bones, and everything else in the body to gradually get accustomed to, sitting, especially in the sitting posture.
Right.
And that's why doing things like yoga to make your ankles and hips and knees flexible, those are the three things that cause us the most discomfort in meditation, probably: the hips, spine, shoulders, and so on, from trying to sit straight for longer periods of time. And then not only that, but also enduring noises that come up. Somebody's making noise in your house and you get upset and tell them, oh, be quiet, I'm meditating. You learn how to endure these distractions that come through our senses. That is one of the most powerful trainings. And that's because you're doing that, and you actually see it as directly visible as you practice, how the mind is no longer obsessing and worrying about having to have the perfect conditions and controlling everything. You understand impermanence. So that's that's really the most direct and powerful way to develop this kind of, the effort to endure the painful or distracting things that come through our senses.
Sadhu, sadhu.
But again, that comes through mindfulness in conjunction with, seeing the importance of following the precepts and, at least simplifying your life to some extent, not being so overly dependent on, sensory stimulation of various kinds.
Thank you.
Bhante, I can only say that looking back and studying the Buddhism, I feel that Buddha this is 2700 years ago. It's remarkable that I think he was the best psychologist that we have ever had. The way he kind of chalked out everything about suffering and how to recognize it and what to do about it. I mean, I can't imagine that in his time. I mean, he was the smartest guy. I was talking to my therapist the other day, and she was asking me like, how have you successfully gotten over your depression and your feelings of loneliness, which she has been working with me, and I told her, I said, look, through Buddhism and his philosophy.
Yes, of course. So almost everybody who is, all of us sort of, we weren't born in the Buddhist countries or even in any Eastern religions. I mean, even in India, though, in yoga, there's lots of, there's the path to overcoming things is also, fairly clear. But, the Buddha just described it in, at least, for our take, much more sort of clearly. But yes, I kind of jokingly say the Buddha was the original shrink,
Yeah, absolutely.
He taught us how we can be our own psychologists. We don't have to go to some other psychologist to tell us what's wrong with us. By us studying the teachings, and meditating and looking at it, we can understand for ourselves what's wrong.
Yeah, and Bhante, she was asking me like, how were you able to deal with your loneliness and the problems that you were discussing with me? And I told her, I said, look, the Buddhist philosophy says there is no lotus without mud. There is no rose without thorn. So this is how Buddhism deals with the suffering, that you don't run away from it. You have to face it and you have to befriend it in order to overcome it. And it's so true. It's so true when you apply it to your own practical life. So, I mean, hats off to Buddha.
Yeah,
That's all I can say.
the problem is that most people in Western countries are in the modern world, they're too lazy. It takes a lot of time. You spend years and years and years to overcome those problems that you mentioned, and so does everyone else. But people don't have the patience to wait that long, so they want to take pills and other kind of things that promise more quick, but they're temporary. They only act on the surface. Kind of pushing down from the top down. Where in the practice of meditation, we're going into this. The subtle levels with awareness and understanding how the mind is working from underneath it, and then making the changes at those subtler vibrations to change the way that we think and act before they've erupted on the mind. So that's the difference. Most techniques in the West, they just work kind of from the top going down, where the Buddha started from inside going up. They change the way you think, and then it'll manifest in your outside world.
Yeah, yeah, Bhante, and with my own experience of all these years, and of course with starting with your and Bhante Ji's guidance, all these years, you were my first teachers. I'm always, will always be so grateful to you. Um, and I came in contact with you when I was going through heck of a time in my own life, and I'll never forget that. But I think a lot of it is also to persist. Sometimes you fall off the wagon and you feel that, okay, I can't do this. This is too difficult, and no, I'm going to stop meditating. I'm going to do other things. But I think the persistence and the discipline is so important. You're
Well,
right.
it's because of the faith, having the faith
Yes.
that it will work. So I want to get somebody else's question here before we run out of time.
Yeah.
So Dushyanti, you have a question?
Um, So in one of the suttas in a Metta Sutta, it says, infinite is the Dhamma, infinite is the Sangha, infinite is the Buddha. Finite are creepy things like snakes, rats, lizards, and so forth. I'm wondering, is there a significance of infinite in the Eightfold Path? And I know that we shouldn't be thinking about, infinite versus finite in terms of, the non-self after Nibbana, but I'm wondering if there's significance in that specific word, appamano.
Appamada means, diligence. But that saying infinite, I haven't actually heard that infinite is the Buddha, Dhamma, and
I
Sangha.
see.
But there is two levels of the Eightfold Path. There's mundane Eightfold Path, and that's finite because it's connected with the earth, and it hasn't reached that transcendent state yet. Whereas the person who's reached at least the states of the Sotapanna and higher levels, that is the start of the supramundane path. So you could say, if you were to use that term infinite, that would start at that realization of breaking the boundaries of ego consciousness and experiencing the infinite state, you could say, to use that term, although we don't normally call it that, but that infinite state of awareness is no longer bound and constricted within thinking, oh, I am just looking out these eyeballs and me, and it's a totally transcendent state. So that is the beginning, I would say, of infinite. So probably whoever coined that term, there were, if the infinite Buddha, okay, well, the Buddha is just infinite knowledge. It's the unconditioned, the knowledge of the unconditioned, which
I'm wondering if it was just someone's translation of appamano, because that's the word.
it might be. That's we find a lot of different translations of different Pali words, and sometimes it can be confusing.
You said it was something else though. It meant something else. Appamano?
Diligence.
Pamado padam. The diligence or the mindfulness is the path to the deathless, appamado. And so I don't know if that's the term that person was using to translate, but again, it's understanding the meaning of the word, not so much the word itself, and saying one word is better than another one. It's how a person can use that word to actually understand the deeper meaning behind the word.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay. Okay, friends, I think maybe we will end this discussion here so that
There's
we
one
can.
question in the text box, Bhante.
Oh, okay. Chat box. The Buddha has an epithet of Anuttaro Visakha, unparalleled physician. When did it originate? Well, I can't really tell you when it originates because I'm not a historian or a linguist, so I can't really say where it. But we were talking a little about how even the Buddha was the greatest, like a great scientist and great psychologist that understood the science of the mind. So in that sense, and he was an unparalleled physician. So probably it originated at the time of the Buddha or by some of his disciples. Maybe the Buddha had a physician. Jivaka was the historical Buddha's physician in I think it was Rajgir, and even he was a follower of the Buddha. So maybe he coined the term, the Buddha's own doctor, that treated his physical diseases, and maybe he coined that term knowing that the Buddha was the unparalleled physician, the physician for the mind. Okay, the Pali word apamano means immeasurable or boundless. So then that's probably where this person, because it's, infinite is a kind of a synonym probably for boundless, immeasurable, infinite. Yeah, so that's probably where it comes from. So it's not apamado, it's apamano, they're the different words. Okay, friends. So why don't we take a short break to get ready for doing some yoga stretches and then our meditation practice. Okay? We'll see you back in a few minutes.
Oh. Bhante.
Good friends, so stand straight, relax your arms at the sides, and gently close your eyes. Just feel your feet pressing the floor. And feel your hands and fingers hanging at the sides. Feel the clothing touching your skin, shoulders, chest, arms. Feel the head balanced on top. Feel your eyes resting in the eye socket. From that point on the eyes, start to feel the outline of the body, general sense of the head on top, arms at the sides, clothing touching the skin, feet pressing the floor. Then begin some deep, slow breathing. It'll take 2 or 3 seconds to expand your abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Expanding the upper chest, hold the air in the lungs for 2 seconds. And slowly breathe out. Feel the last bit of air go out of the lungs. Then the next in-breath. Just take several more deep, slow breaths like that, developing this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to combine this breathing with these stretching movements. So on the next in-breath, raise your arms over the head, interlock your fingers. Turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch your head back, stretch upwards. Feel the sensations. Release the fingers, the out-breath, arms back to the side. And again, the next in-breath, use the in-breath to help stretch up. And bend back a little bit. Feel the sensation. Out breath, arms back to the side. Feel the last bit of air go out. Once more in. Stretch up. Bend back a little more, hold it a little longer. Out breath. Just close the eyes, keep feeling the body. Just keep feeling the outline of the body, release the increased sensations in your hands and fingers, the feet pressing the floor. Just remember the present moment of standing, just letting go of your thoughts, just Let your thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Keep the sensations of the body in the front of the awareness. Clothing touching the outer skin. Subtler life force vibrations under the skin. And the next in breath, lift up on the balls of the feet while raising the arms over the head, facing the hands toward each other, about 6 inches apart. Stretch up. Out breath. Come back down. We'll use the in breath to help lift up the body, like blowing up a helium balloon. The body rises up. On the toes, stretch. Out. Once more. Keep feeling the body. Remember standing. Don't let the mind get carried away in other thoughts. And next we'll do the side bending using both, actually using one arm at a time. On the next in-breath, raise your left arm up. And keep your fingers and arms straight, close to your head. And on the out-breath, bend over the right side as far as you comfortably can. Keep the arms, fingers straight. Laying on the side of your head, in-breath, lift up. Again, out-breath to the right. Use the breath to help lift and lower the body. On the out breath, lower that arm. Next in breath, raise the other arm. And 3 times, bending over the left side, out breath. In breath up. Out. The out breath, lower that arm. Just close the eyes, keep feeling the body. Feel that outline of the body in the mind's eye. Feel the increased sensation. Clothing touching the outer skin. Subtle sensations under the skin. Be aware of any thoughts moving through the back of the mind. Just keep remembering standing. And next we'll do the squatting or knee bending. On the next in breath, we can lift up on the balls of the feet while raising the arms up in front for balance. On the out breath, bend the knees and lower the body down. And keep the back upright. Squatting position. And deep in breath, push up through the muscles in the legs, pushing the body up on the toes. Again, out breath. In. Out. Hold the squat a little longer. In breath, shut. Out breath, relax. Feel the increased heartbeat, the pulsations, or any itchy, prickly sensations due to the exercise, release of trapped energy, or more kind of sensations, especially aches or pains, prickly, itchy sensations. Keep remembering standing, repeating the word standing, helps keep the attention on the standing posture. Present moment awareness. Okay, now spread your legs apart about 3 feet. And do twisting from right to left, holding the arms out. And breathe in. On the out breath, twist to the right. Keep your eyes focused on the hand going back. The in breath, come back to the front. Let your feet turn with the body, then twist to the other side. Next out breath. In breath, front. Just keep alternating sides like that, breathing. Twisting a bit further each time, twisting up the spinal vertebrae. Once more to each side. Come back to the front, lower the arms, relax. Close the eyes. Feel each foot pressing the floor. Feel the arms and hands hanging at the side. Clothing touching the skin. The head and face, and the eyes, and the sockets. We were the third eye of awareness. We now place the hands together, chest. On the in-breath, raise the hands over the head. On the out-breath, lower the hands to the chest, bend the knees and lower down. Try to keep the back upright, feet flat on the floor. Come down a little bit. In-breath, all the way back up. Out breath, come down a little farther. Stretch knees and hips. In breath. Third time, out breath. In. The out breath, arms back to the side. Close the eyes. Pull that outline of the body in the mind's eye. Collage of different sensations of your head, arms, clothing, feet. So just watching the body standing there exactly as it is. Different sensations, thoughts or urges moving through the mind. Okay, next we'll do the forward and backward bending, keeping the legs apart. Let your hands touch the front of your legs. We'll breathe in. On the out breath, bend forward. Let the hands slide down to the kneecaps. Keep your head lifted up, looking out straight ahead. Try to flatten your back and spine. Legs straight. In breath, lift up. Move the hands under the buttocks for support. And let the gently bend backwards on the out breath. Keep the eyes open to the arch and the spine. In breath, carefully lift up. On the next out breath, let the hands come below your knees. So keep the legs straight. Keep the head looking out straight ahead. Feel the extra stretch in the hamstring muscle. Let the little bones in the lower spine stretch out. In breath, again the back bend, be careful. Bend back a little more. In breath. And the third time, let the hands come down as far as you can towards your ankles or feet. You hold on there longer. You let the little bones in the lower spine stretch out. Feel all the sensation. The legs, the spine. And begin lifting up. Once more, the back bend on the out breath. Be careful. Lift up. On the out breath, relax your arms and shoulders. Close the eyes, feel each foot pressing the floor. Feel the clothing touching the skin. Head balanced on top. Present moment, body centered awareness. Feel the increased life force sensation. Present moment awareness. You just watch those different life force vibrations. And you develop present moment awareness. And now bring your legs back together. One last simple exercise, the head turning from right to left. On the next in-breath, turn the head to the right. Look over your right shoulder, feel the twist in the neck. Got a stiff neck, just be careful. On the out-breath, turn back 180 degrees to look over the left shoulder. In-breath to the right. Out breath left. In right. Out left. On the in-breath, your head stop in the center, feel the whole body. Start to feel the organic aliveness of the whole body. Clothing touching the outer skin, subtler life forces, sensations under the skin. Present moment, body-centered awareness. First stage, deeper mindfulness and concentration. Okay, so now let's mindfully come back to our seats, get ready for sitting. Just get comfortable in sitting posture. Try to keep your back straight, chin lifted up level with the floor. Try to find that center of gravity of the head and spine over the hips. Just gently close the eyes. Try to feel the outline of the body in the mind's eye. Sort of hold that outline of the body in the mind's eye. Begin some deep, slow breathing. I'm going to start the meditation by chanting Namo Buddhaya. Just let those sounds help to keep your attention focused in the body, feeling those the sensation. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Stay focused in the breathing body. Try to count the breaths from 1 to 10, develop a more continued concentration on the breathing. So on the next incoming, expanding in breath, mentally count to 1. Hold the breath for a second. On the contracting out breath, also count to 1. Feel the last bit of air go out. And the next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In 3. Out 3. In 4, out 4, in 5, out 5, in 6, out 6, in 7, out 7, in 8, out 8, in 9, out 9, in 10, out 10. Now discontinue the counting. Let your breathing return to its uncontrolled, shorter, irregular rhythm. But continue to feel it, to observe it. Feel the subtler, shorter, expanding and contracting sensation. Or if you're able to feel the flow of air, the touch of air in the nostrils, whichever place helps you to stay awake, alert. Just knowing when the breath is coming in, and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling it, feeling those subtle sensations. You feel like being a scientist looking down through a microscope, focusing lens of awareness on the breathing process. Or to tune into the 4 phases of each breath cycle. The expanding in-breath and the brief pause. The contracting out breath and the brief pause. Just over and over and over again. In the brief pauses between the breaths, feel the outline of the sitting body. This breathing is going on within the larger body. If it helps you to stay focused, you can use these brief mental reminders. In sitting, out, out, sitting. It's the ongoing, continuous present moment of this breathing body. This body is breathing, but it's our mind and awareness that knows it, that feels it. If you still have lots of thoughts, you can try counting the breaths from 1 to 10 again by yourself to see if you can make it to 10 without your mind getting carried away in thoughts or drifting off to sleep. Stay awake, alert, moment by moment, breath by breath. Start to notice more and subtler details, sensations connected with the breathing. Try to notice how each breath is different, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Sometimes you may feel the breathing more in the abdomen or the chest. It's always changing, the pauses between the breaths, maybe longer or shorter. Just be like a scientist. Oh, this is what the breath is, what it's like. Also be aware of other sensations that are trying to take your attention, painful sensations or itchy sensations. Going on through that breathing awareness. Be aware of the subtle stream of thoughts moving through the back of the mind, trying to sneak in and steal your attention away. The more physical sensations you can notice in the breathing body, the less chance for your mind to get carried away and lost in thought. From time to time, take a few more deep, slow breaths. Help keep the mind centered, awake in the breathing body. especially with each out breath. Allow the body and mind to relax more and more into the present moment. Just feeling all those subtle life force vibrations. You can feel many subtle life force vibrations. That's the awareness, developed awareness. Just developing mindfulness and concentration. Concentration is keeping the mind flowing in the present moment. Mindfulness is the alertness to all the different changing sensations, thoughts, movement of physical or mental activity. Seeing their impermanence, everything is just arising and vanishing very quickly. Breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting. So many sensations coming and going, sounds come and go, thoughts, ideas come and go, pleasure or pain come and go. These are all just the continuous flow of the five aggregates, body, mind, phenomenon, and their nature of impermanence. It's cultivating that understanding of how the mind gets caught in its confusions or sufferings due to its clinging, identification, many of the sensory impingement. And from time to time, take a few deep, slow breaths to re-energize the nervous system with oxygenated blood. Help stay grounded, awake in the present moment. If you have good awareness, moment to moment awareness, just try to become like an empty house with nobody home to answer the call coming through the senses. It's just a sensitive microphone of awareness, present moment, body-centered awareness. Just allow that last little sense of I or me to fade away. Sabbe sankhara anicchati yada panyaya pasati atanibindati dukhi isamargo visuddhiya dukkapata chani dukkha bhayapata chanibbaya sokapata chani sokha hontu sabbe pipanino. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They arise only to briefly last, then vanish. When one sees this with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to freedom. And may the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. In this way may all beings live with mindfulness and wisdom. Thus spoke the Buddha. Now I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times slowly. We do the chanting on a long out breath. So take a deep breath. Sadhu. Breathe. Sadhu. Breathe. Now mindfully place your hands at the edge of the knees. Take one more deep breath. As you breathe in, stretch your head back. Pull the hands against the knees to arch your spine. Look up at the ceiling. Feel the sensation. And lift the head up on an in-breath, and on the out-breath, press the chin to the top of the chest. Stretch the neck vertebrae. Lift the chin up level on an in-breath. Relax on the out-breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends, this brings our evening of Dhamma discussion and meditation to an end, but as I always say, mindfulness should never end. And try to keep up your practice in the daily life, doing the M&Ms every hour. Remember to stop for 1 minute. Take a few deep breaths, bring the mind back to the present moment of the body, letting go of that rush to the future. Okay, friends, so we'll hopefully see you again next week. So until then, be well, be safe, be mindful, be wise. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you,
Gratitude
Bhante.
with compassion and appreciation. Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.